All right, everyone. Well, welcome to NGLCC Webinar Wednesdays. Today's program is presented by CVS Health in partnership with MH3, and it is called From Safe to Brave Space, It's a Vibe. My name is Lauren Schweppe. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm our Director of Programs and Stakeholder Advocacy here at the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce. A couple of housekeeping items. As I mentioned, if you haven't done so already, please take the pre-mood survey, which is linked here in the chat. I believe that second link is one that should work. The chat also should be now enabled for everyone, so feel free to put any questions you have here in the chat throughout today's session. To kick off today's webinar, I am thrilled to introduce Monette Napick, Executive Director of Supplier Diversity at CVS Health. Monette, take it away.
Thanks, Lauren, and thank you to the entire NGLCC family for allowing CVS Health and MH3 the opportunity to host today's workshop, From Safe to Brave Space. Our goal was to continue the positive momentum many of us here in the audience experienced. We attended NGLCC, It's a Vibe conference. CVS Health understands the importance of supporting the LGBTQ+ community in a far broader capacity to support our customers, clients, colleagues, and communities in thriving both personally and professionally to meet their individual and unique needs to keep them healthy and well. So before I hand it off to Rico Rickerson, CEO and founder of MH3, if you haven't heard it already, please take a moment to complete the pre-mood survey found in the lower right-hand corner or also via the chat. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Rico. Thank you.
Thank you, Monette. Hi, thank you to Monette and CVS Health for your partnership in creating our workshop today, From Safe to Brave Space, It's a Vibe. As Monette said, my name is Rico Ricketson, and my pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm the founder and CEO of MH3, Mental Health Education for the Mind, Body, and Spirit, and I will be your moderator today. As a proud gay, multiracial Latino, it's because CVS Health created a brave space for me to flourish that I was able to make the leap from over 20 years in corporate America to entrepreneur. Now I'd like to introduce you to our experts who will be sharing their ideas, insights, and inspiration for creating a brave space today. I'd like to start with they'll all come on screen shortly, but I'd like to start our conversation with Nicole Van Valen for introductions. Nicole, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us more about your role within CVS Health?
Thank you for that. I wanted to just definitely say my name is Nicole Van Valen, and I go by she, her, and I'm honored to be here today. Thank you for inviting me to share with you some of my personal, clinical, and business values and experiences. I'm a senior business leader for CVS Health's Mental Wellbeing and Resources for Living organization, which really helps members build mental health resiliency and manage life changes. I work directly with our Resources for Living's leadership team to drive strategic engagement strategies and lead new initiatives to engage diverse populations on a variety of issues by championing mental well-being throughout the enterprise and the community. And I have more than 20 years of experience in healthcare and the behavioral health industry.
We are glad to have you today and can't wait to share your ideas, insights, and inspiration. Dr. Pete. Dr. Pete, then we'll go to Jason. But Dr. Pete, would you mind introducing yourself as well and telling us a little bit more about your practice?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Pete. I use he, him, and I am an associate professor at Rutgers University in New Jersey, where I direct the organizational psychology doctoral program. And my research focuses primarily on multicultural psychology, evidence-based practices within, and I work predominantly with sports psychology, which links to my other main role as the director of behavioral health for Rutgers University and other universities in New Jersey. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. And finally, but definitely not least of formal introductions, Jason, would you mind introducing yourself as well?
Very good, thanks. Hi, my name is Jason Heckard. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a lead director of business consultation for Aetna, a CVS company. I'm responsible for deploying a lean management system across our enterprise and embedding a continuous improvement culture into the DNA of the way that we work. I am a Lean Six Sigma black belt, as well as have the honor of sitting on our LGBTQ colleague resource group, Pride Plus, where we help champion and promote diversity and serve as a resource for creating a culture of inclusion.
Thank you. And we'll talk about this, of course, today. But your personal wellness story is not only that we'll talk about is not only inspiring, right, but just for us individuals in the community, but also for advocates as well, to really look at that you can go beyond safe and to create a brave space. So I really appreciate you joining us today. And behind the scenes, but not and as important as everyone else, is definitely our Dr. Green. Dr. Kimball Green is our Chief Mental Health Officer at MH3, and she'll be on the chat. So you'll see things from her. Say hello to her. I'm sure she would love to say hello back. But with that, thank you, experts. And we're going to dive deeper into each of your expertise to share. Before that, I'd like to talk about just the state of mental health in the LGBT community. And if you have not, before we get there, I know we've been saying this over and over, but if you have not, please take the anonymous pre-mood survey and feel free to either directly put the link in your browser or click on the link in the chat. Your input is going to help us measure the workshop's impact on improving your overall mood and well-being. When it comes to our mood and well-being, we all deserve to heal. At MH3, our vision is to make mental wellness a workplace essential. As a minority, disability, and LGBT-owned business, we believe that championing mental wellness in today's workforce means elevating diverse perspectives, tailoring content to meet the unique needs and life experiences of employees, and thirdly is standing beside them as they chart their own path to begin their best selves. All that with our mission, which is to empower employers to be champions of well-being by providing resources that create and sustain mental wellness across their diverse workforce. Now let's dive deeper, though, into the state of mental health, specifically for the LGBT community. Yes, we are all living through a shared global trauma, and it's not going away anytime soon. However, historically, for our LGBT community, we are 2 times more than likely than non-LGBT individuals to have a mental health disorder in our lifetimes. The pandemic, 2 times more than likely than non-LGBTQ+ individuals to report that the pandemic is having a major impact on our mental health. So yes, our community needs to heal, but most of us aren't getting the chance due to long-held stigma, discrimination, and harassment. That's why our solution today is to share the ideas, insights, and inspiration from Nicole Van Valen, Dr. Pete, and Jason Heckert for not only creating a safe space that provides support, but a brave space that encourages mutual healing and accountability. So we're going to go through a lot today in order to walk through that solution. We're going to start out and end with the self-care breathing exercises, which will be pre-recorded videos from our Chief Mental Health Officer. And then we'll dive deep into what are those most common mental stressors impacting our community? What is the impact of those emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? And then also, what is the stigma that we're facing, either social stigma or self-stigma? And then what are strategies not only for LGBT individuals, but for advocates in corporate America? What are strategies they can use to help our community start to heal? And then we'll take a look at an organization, CVS Health, and look at how they've done the work of going from safe to brave, not only internally with the personal wellness story that we're sharing, but externally with the resources that Nicole Van Valen will be sharing. So like I said, before we get started today, I'd like to start with a self-care exercise with Dr. Green. Now, for this exercise, it is called the power container, and it's meant to get all of us grounded. We're going to go through a lot of information that I want to make sure that you're truly listening to, because it could either help or save you or someone else. So with that, just know I will have my camera on, you won't, but it will require you either to stand or sit. I'll be sitting for this. But with that, let's start our self-care exercise with Dr. Green, Power Container.
Greetings, extraordinary ones. The Power Container practice is designed to reconnect you to your immense inner power and to refortify your energy field, which allows you to choose what energies, thoughts, and actions you release from your field, as well as what energies come into your field from the outside world. So we're going to begin by standing with your feet shoulder width apart. And closing your eyes, imagine yourself in a clear glass container, a cylinder-shaped container that has enough room for you to stand comfortably and is taller than you by about 2 or 3 feet. And when you're standing comfortably in your container, you can again close your eyes. And imagine, if you will, the color that represents empowerment and safety for you. Take a moment to become really clear about that color and what shade that color is that represents power and safety specifically for you. Now that you have the color in place, I want you to imagine a soft, translucent mist rising from the bottom of your container that is the color of your power cup. This mist slowly rises above your ankles and up past your knees. And this warm, embracing light power mist comes up past your hip and continues to rise over your shoulders. And this light, breathable power mist that is the color of your choosing rises up over your head into the top of the container, which is open. This energy, the energy of this color that you've chosen to represent your power and safety, now envelops you, embraces you, and surrounds you. And even though this energy, this power energy, will always be with you, you can activate it and energize it by simply imagining the color that for you represents empowerment and safety. You can choose the thoughts and feelings and actions you release from you and your energy field. And more importantly, you can choose what energies from the outside world enter your field. Yourself. That's whether it comes from thoughts or actions of other people. And it also empowers you to create a space to choose and to think before you send out energies through words and actions. When you're ready, open your eyes, step out of your container. And this concludes our power container.
So I hope that all of you are definitely feeling more grounded after talking through that, after walking through that self-care exercise with Dr. Green. Now I'd like to start getting into really the meat of our workshop today, and that's talking to our experts. So first, talk to our experts is the first person we'd love to talk to for this is Nicole Green on the most common mental stressors impacting the LGBT community. Hello again, Nicole. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. I'm back again.
yes, back again. So for you, for the mental stressors, is what are, from your perspective as CVS Health, what are the blocks that you're seeing the LGBT community face?
Well, let me just start off with, according to the 16th annual LGBTQ community survey back in June of this year in the USA report, it was showing that support for the LGBTQ employees year-round and providing more opportunities to tell their stories through heartfelt communications helps to overcome barriers. And that's what we're beginning to do today with this workshop. And then it brings me to psychological safety, which is critical for our overall health and well-being. So psychological safety, which is the belief that you won't be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes at work. And this is also a critical part of our strategy and engagement with our diverse colleagues here at CVS Health. Also within our mental well-being organization, psychological safety is a core component of our cultural diversity and inclusion efforts to impact the well-being in the workplace. So it's really about being brave enough to share who you are, and having that comfort level comes from within while also working in a safe environment. It's that feeling of being safe enough to be professionally authentic. For someone in the LGBT plus community to be brave and have the courage to take the risk to be present, engaged, and feel safe enough to bring themselves to the table. And then when this happens in the workplace, it's an inclusive environment. And then we all gain the greatness of the diversity of experiences that innovate and create. And these are the fruits that help businesses thrive and survive in the market. However, it's really also important to understand what psychological safety is not. Types of unsafe behaviors, which include a lack of communication, a lack of boundaries and/or awareness, are what we considered unsafe behaviors. Some of the other unsafe behaviors are microaggressions, gaslighting, and bias. So microaggressions are small, off-the-cuff comments that reflect assumptions about people based on some element of their identity. So it's those seemingly innocent comments that often are appearing to be compliments or generally expressing questions that are unintentional expressions of bias or other forms of discrimination. Another one is gaslighting at work. And this could be when a fellow employee or even a boss manipulates the person to the point that they feel that they're questioning their sanity or memory or perceptions. And the gaslighter could do this by denying past events or downplaying your emotions or retelling events so that you're taking the blame for it. And then when we think of biases, that occurs when someone who doesn't know you makes an assumption about your character, intelligence, or capabilities based on how you look and speak or behave. And sometimes the sad thing is the person doesn't even know that he, she, or they is thinking or reacting this way. So we really want people to feel safe at work and make it easier for people to be brave enough to engage with their teams and flourish regardless of their preferences.
Thank you. I mean, right, to really look at what's happening on the outside of all these things that I think some people may think of an innocent mistake, right? They're not part of our community. And that's why we talk about going beyond just safe to brave spaces, spaces that pull you in. But thank you, Nicole, for providing that information. The perspective is really what's happening in the community from what you're seeing from your perspective. And with that, I'd love to bring up Dr. Pete to talk through really the impact of these mental stressors, right? There's an emotional, spiritual, physical impact. But Dr. Pete, what is the impact from your perspective that these mental stressors are having on LGBT individuals in business? What is that? What is that impact?
Yeah, I mean, the impact is real and it's individualized. One of the things as I'm thinking about that is this word disruption. And so maybe for our audience, if you've ever kind of heard this today, how do we really disrupt? And I think that one of the things that we're doing specifically for LGBT individuals is to think about disrupting the heteronormative narrative that's often present in many of the workplaces where we are. That's because, that's things like family leave and all these systems that are in place that are really more heterosexually focused are not there. And so I do think we have to disrupt. But for me, disruption also needs to be skillful. So one of the things I work on as a behaviorist is how can I be skillful in my performance? And so to disrupt means I have to skillfully challenge some of the systems that are in place. Because like one of the things I think about, especially in today's world, is that we have several diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. And the disruption occurs where it's got to take policy to action. It's one thing to say that companies have some sort of, these days we're seeing that there are chief diversity officers and positions in senior leadership that are committed to DEI, which is great. And if it's not trickling down and having an impact on marginalized groups, then it's not so great. And that's where disruption comes in, that we have to take policy, more to action. So this way, in particular, think about LGBT folk, that they can feel a greater level of comfort to be one of their very many identities, because that's the one thing we think about, and certainly I do, is intersectionality. Many of us are sitting here, and Rico, you mentioned just sort of 3 identities for the MH3 ownership, and many of us have intersectional identities, and just making sure that we can create a space for those to be present in our working environments.
And thank you, because that has not always been there, right? It's just as someone being on the other end of that, it's not always been there. And as you know, that having more and more people talk about this and bring it forward of the importance of intersectionality, that me, myself, right, is I'm more than just gay, I'm gay, multiracial, Latino, like all these different parts of me that individually all need to be respected. But thank you for that. And thank you for that, Dr. Pete. And what I'd love to now do is go through and talk through a lot more on 2 big areas, and we'll break them down separately. But first, really, what we'll talk about is stigma, both social and self-stigma, that's impacting the LGBT community from healing. And then we'll go into strategies for both LGBT individuals and advocates to provide mutual healing in the workplace. So we'll go through both of those, but like I said, we'll start out with stigma. So with that, for stigma, Dr. Pete, what is the stigma, both social and self, that prevents LGBT individuals, from your perspective, from moving from safe to that brave space?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important conversation because of the socio-political world that we're currently living in. And so this is not a politically charged statement. It's simply one that identifies, I mean, we're having the conversation of, facts versus truths. These are, big psychological kind of terms in today's world. But if I just objectively describe that sociopolitically, there are changes happening. There's the marginalization is certainly a bit more palpable, from all of us, no matter what our identity is. And I think that really has, unfortunately, heightened the stigma that, and so specifically thinking LGBT individuals, are being targeted. So there are policies being challenged that have been in place to protect LGBT folk. And so I think that's something that is really at the forefront of a lot of the clinical work and research that I'm doing.
Yeah. And for that, when you look at from that social political environment, right, and that's happening, what is the self-stigma you see manifest for LGBT individuals?
Yeah, so any marginalized person is going to have some self. So, we think about it as internalized homosexuality, we even have internalized racism, really any ism you could think of, we internalize. And so what I spend time with clinically is helping people unpack that, unravel it, because that does have pretty detrimental effects. You mentioned before about impact. I mean, impact is a nice word in a way, right? Because it could also be positive or negative. So, and I sort of like that. And I think, what if we can look at it that way too? Because I think impact, although negative, could have some positive effect. So I have multiple identities, and in particular, as a white man, I do a lot of anti-racist work as well. And so as an ally is important impact, and so I think thinking about our panel and noticing that there are allies. And so can we praise and empower allyship, which would really help potentially, reduce some prejudice and discrimination that is, prevalent in today's world.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a lot too of where we're talking at now, right, is we've talked about the mental stressors, the impact of those, and stigma, right? It's a lot coming at you and you're like, what do I do next?
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing of at MH3, we always want to make sure to provide strategies as well,
Yeah.
right? This is to your point of impact. It could be positive or it could be negative. We want to make sure we bring a positive impact so that you have strategies after hearing these. So what are strategies that you recommend for advocates and LGBT individuals to, I guess another way of just starting to be brave, right? What do you like to doing brave? What is their strategies that you would recommend for people doing brave?
Well, I like your wording, Rico. Perhaps you borrowed that from somewhere, but it is to
Yes. His name is Dr. Pete.
It's to do. I mean, we have to do courage. We have to do scary. We have to do, and that's the action orientation of me as a behaviorist. And so I recognize that that takes a lot of work, and that's what you're looking for, right? Because like, if I am a marginalized person who hasn't done a lot of self-reflection or really unraveled some of the internalized language and schema that I have, it is harder to do brave. So I'm validating that for those that are out there. I've done a lot of work to be able to do brave. And so to do brave, I think kind of would piggyback off of some of this impact stuff we talked about. Can I develop allyship? I know that there are some really great CVS Health organizations that were talked about, for Pride. Can I develop and create a community? One of the things we see within the LGBT community is that we often choose family in a way. We don't choose blood, but we might choose family. And that means that we create networks of people that help support us. That's critical. And so making sure that you have, good people around you, that you're finding those allies, you're creating those relationships. I think stay curious. That's always a good technique for me, because it's very easy when we are attacked to just attack back. I mean, that's our brain. Our brain does that. So can we retrain our brain to say, hey, let me stay curious with this person. What's happening? Why don't they like me? Why are they discriminating against me? That requires to do brave. So, if you can, it's similar to like what I think about is like with the loved one. What we've seen over the last few years is that some families have been split up over the aforementioned socio-political issues. And so what if we could just stay curious with that person that we're, not agreeing with? And then, one thing that I write a lot about and involved with is also emotional intelligence. And so in particular, thinking about what I write about is like emotional intelligence in the workplace and leadership styles. So how do I integrate in emotional intelligence into my work environment? And then lastly, what I'll say again is a lot of the people I work with will say to me, well, why do I have to be the skilled one? And so for anyone out there that's hearing this saying like, it's not fair, like, why do I have to do the brave? I think that is just a part of the world that we live in. And so just committing to doing that, and that we're learning skills. And that's great, because our brains are actually more psychologically and cognitively flexible, which will like create, it decreases risk of some of the neurological based disorders that happen with like aging.
Yeah. No, this, right, I think what's to your point, right, of why does it have to be me?
Yeah.
And the whole idea, even what you said of impact, we can provide positive or negative impact. And I'm not saying always when you see someone be like, I'm going to make a positive impact on them, because definitely want to be mentally well as well and prepare for that conversation. But I think just the reality of understanding that is key, right? Like just that you can make that impact, because I think I've been on the other end of that often, and I've started to look at this negative story that I attach to it. And when I start thinking of impact, of a positive impact I could make, it just allows me to go into the conversation or the experience a lot more prepared, right? I'm never going to be prepared exactly what someone else is going to say, and someone's maybe have an action that you don't like that you need to walk away from, because you need to be psychologically safe, of course. But thank you for that, Dr. Pete. I think that really helps with the strategies, right, of finding really for us of doing brave, of what you had mentioned. And the follow-up after tomorrow, actually, NGLCC is sending an email with an empowerment guide that has, your insights, as well as Nicole and Jason's, just for people can remember these important information as well as strategies. But thank you for that. With that, I'd love to now turn it, now that we've really looked at from the expert perspective of just science, stigma, and strategies of the LGBT community, I really would like to now transition to an organization that is doing this not only internally, but externally. And to start us out for that conversation will be Jason Hecker from CVS Health. Hi, Jason. Hello again.
Hi there. Thank you. So thanks again for having me. I'm excited to share kind of my personal story on how CVS and Aetna have created a space that makes me feel brave to say, you know, hey, I'm Jason and I'm a gay male, and that's okay, right? It's okay to present myself that way and to be open to dialogue with my peers, my colleagues, or any new, you know, clients, whoever I might interact with. You know, I wasn't always comfortable with that. There was a time where I was afraid to kind of introduce myself that way. I was fearful that I might be met with some bias, or that, you know, I might be judged or potentially, you know, withheld from opportunities. So, you know, I was excited to see the investment that CVS Health has made. You know, as I mentioned, I've been with the company for 15 years. I started when I was 10 years old.
We'll keep with that story. We'll keep with that story.
Thanks, Mika. But really, it was, you know, investment in the resources to the community at all the different levels of leadership. So that shift for me really helped kind of know it's comfortable for me to be my authentic self. I could come to work with no fear, no anxiety. You know, I mentioned in the kickoff, my role in business consulting is every 3 to 4 months, we go into a new area. And was always a horrible time for me, right? Okay, great. New kickoff, meeting new people, introductions, meet and greets. Do I introduce myself as a gay man? Am I going to hear, you know, oh, how are the wife and kids? Tell me about, you know, this or that. So there was always those like restless nights before a kickoff, right? The anxiety of like, what is tomorrow going to bring? Am I going to be accepted? Am I going to be judged by this new group of people? Am I going to be able to build their trust? I don't have that anymore. I can say that CVS really took those worries away by creating a safe space for me to be brave, for me to be able to be my authentic self without fear of any type of retaliation.
And I know, and we talk a lot about this at MH3, just diving deeper into, right, a story of really, how did that make you feel, right? How did that make you feel if you said before, right, you couldn't be your authentic self?
Yeah.
What was that feeling like for you?
Yeah, those feelings weren't great, right? I think I mentioned a few: fear, anxiety, sleeplessness. Those are all big things that take a toll on your mental health. So yeah, I would say definitely like the worry, fear, sleeplessness.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people that, right, are maybe have not experienced that, or not members of our community, right, is just that, once again, the impact, right? The impact of this is that we all deserve to heal. And that's why we have to move beyond just safe to brave spaces. But one thing that's great is that, and I'm sure everyone is like, wait a minute, how did CVS Health do this, right? Because I may be a corporate sponsor, or I may want to find an organization like this, but what did CVS Health do that actually created that brave space that you mentioned of to be your authentic self?
Good question. So for me, again, it was the investment into the resources. So, you know, I mentioned I'm part of our colleague resource group, Pride Plus. We have a ton of internal and external resources around, you know, creating a safe space for any minority group, not just LGBTQ, right? But they've invested in diversity, equity, inclusion. So it was really kind of For me, every time I feel like I opened up our homepage, there was some article about LGBTQ, diversity, inclusion, and it was showing me from the executive leaders down to my direct manager, right? The support, not just for me, myself, but to all my colleagues across the organization, as well as our consumers. That showed me their actions spoke louder to me than their words, right? And that's a big thing for me. It showed me that CVS Aetna was an ally and not just one of those companies that throw up a rainbow, during Pride Month, but at all times throughout any time of the year that we matter and that it's okay to be who we are and that they support us and have our backs. So, that's a great feeling. It makes you feel good to wake up and want to come to work and know that you have a safe space to be your authentic self.
Thank you, because I know for me, myself in corporate America, I'm not sure if I've been in organizations, right, that I have felt that brave. I felt the safe part, but not as much of extending to the brave of allowing you to really be your authentic self, of pulling you in. And I know I felt that from the CVS Health environment, from your Executive Learning Series program. But thank you for sharing that, for your perspective of just the internal perspective. What I'd love to do now is turn it back over to Nicole Van Valen, so that we could talk through from CVS Health, the external work you've been doing. And so hello, Nicole.
Hello.
Hello again. We're here again. So, and this is a very important segment for, right, we want to be able, for the mental wellness resources, is not only speak to the corporate partners, but also individuals as well. And for the individuals in our community, I know we have a wonderful surprise gift that will be coming to you from CVS Health via a link, so stay tuned on the chat. So you will get this very shortly. But to start us out with the mental wellness resources for creating brave spaces, Nicole, can we start with corporate partners? And so are there ideas, insights, and inspiration you have for corporate partners of the NGLCC from moving from that safe to brave space for the LGBT plus business community?
Of course. At CVS Health, we're a company where we're really focused on people first and health first, and we really consider the human aspect of things. If the pandemic taught us anything, is how important it is to support people far beyond and in a broader capacity than we previously thought was necessary in order for people to thrive professionally. And we want to move beyond just advocating, but we want to move to being an ally of the LGBT plus community. So whether you identify as part of the community or not, we want to discover all the ways to support the LGBT plus community. And one of the things there are 4 aspects, because I know I talk about psychological safety, and I think it's a really important topic for everyone, including those that are of diverse backgrounds. And it satisfies a basic human need to thrive in brave spaces. And 4 of these basic needs are feeling inclusion safety, a learner safety, contributor safety, and a challenger safety. So basically what that means is people want to be able to connect and have a sense of belonging, feel safe and brave enough to be themselves and be accepted for their unique attributes and defining characteristics. People want to grow and learn and feel safe to exchange in a learning process, and they want to make a difference and feel safe to use their skills and abilities and brave enough to make those meaningful contributions that they can only make. And also, we just want to make things better. So if you feel safe and you feel brave enough to speak up and meet challenges to the status quo, we have these opportunities to make changes and improvements. So the best way to support diverse colleagues, especially those in the LGBTQ plus community and in the workplace, is to move from this safe to a brave place where people are taking action and having a psychologically safe environment by making it a priority and connecting it to a higher purpose. We want to encourage engagement and show genuine curiosity and honor candor and truth telling. And then we want to establish norms when things don't go according to plan, or, we want to encourage learning from failure or disappointments. And we really want to encourage creative and new ideas. And if we're going to challenge these ideas, we want to do it from a larger context of support. And then basically embracing communication to resolve any conflicts. And this is done by promoting dialogue and having productive debate and working to resolve any kind of conflicts or productivity. So really, to advocate and be an ally is creating a fertilized space in the environment where everyone feels welcomed, included, and then we can really prosper from there.
Exactly. No, and I really appreciate that, because I think sometimes, right, of addressing the needs of different communities for businesses, sometimes it's just you don't know where to start, and getting ideas, insights, and inspiration to heal all communities, and specifically for this conversation, right, providing healing, mutual accountability and healing for the LGBT business community. That is an awesome step that even now you went further beyond, because the thing I wanted to share is, would you mind talking about, for individuals, right, in the LGBT business community, resources from CVS Health?
Yes. So it's really important to keep working towards a world where everyone can be their authentic selves, right? So we work regularly with the Trevor Project to host ally and other trainings for CVS Health colleagues. We have our resources for living, and we have many resources to help people in the LGBTQ plus community help manage life challenges. So we create toolkits all the time, but this toolkit that we created for those that are present today is amazing. It incorporates podcasts on self-identity, articles on understanding sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, the coming out process, and also when a loved one comes out as an LGBTQ+. There are resources for young people and their parents, trainings on understanding and overcoming unconscious bias, and then also how to support a transgender coworker and how to get help when you're afraid. So I really encourage each of you to review and take action on these resources that help us have a safer LGBT plus business community that is inclusive. So I always believe in education and communication, and that's the way that we can come together.
No, thank you. And I was overjoyed when you had sent over the link with the resources that really proactively your team has just been far ahead of making sure that we have a toolkit for the participants for today that has a list of resources. Because I know, Nicole, even from our experts that are right in the community seeing patients, many times they'll have patients that for whatever reason can't afford to have treatment, right? And so they're often wondering, how do I get them resources? And so all the things you're doing, of course, they're beyond just, if you have a therapist already, you can use these, of course, in a conjunction, but it's really great for therapists and just mental health professionals overall to have other resources to be able to share. So thank you, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
But that's our, for today, that is not we're not over, but because I would love, that is what we're going to now is we really went through the knowledge base of ideas, insights, and inspiration, right? And we started out just by getting grounded. And now what I'd love to do is I'd like to have you be able to take away an exercise that you can use to do brave after. And it will be led by Dr. Kimball Green. It'll be pre-recorded. And then after this, we're going to continue on, take a post-mood survey, and we'll close out. But before we do that, I'd like to share with you our self-care exercise with Dr. Green.
Greetings, extraordinary ones. The Powerful Future practice is designed to guide you in creating and claiming your future through visualization. Everything that exists and has yet to be manifested began in someone's imagination. It's how we create in this world. As you gather a vision of your desires, goals, and dreams for yourself, you will begin to manifest that simply because it has been created in your mindset. So begin by standing, close your eyes, and imagine yourself now just as you are. Go into detail about who you are now. What do you look like? What are you feeling? What do you think about who you are today? Where are you? And what do you look like? We're going to call this image Now You. So now we're going to shift and create an image of future you. With your eyes still closed, I want you to imagine yourself 1 year from now. What do you look like? What are you wearing? What have you accomplished? How are you feeling? What emotions are you sharing with the world? How do you feel about who you are? What job do you have? Where do you live? Create the detail for what we're going to call future. Now that you have now you and future you clearly in your mind's eye, I want you to close your eyes and imagine them both, now you and future you, standing in front of one another. And as now you and future you are standing facing each other, I want you to imagine a stream of energy coming from now you and connecting at the heart of future you. This is a powerful stream of energy that helps you create and claim who you are becoming. And as you stand and observe now you and future you connected by this energy cord, I want you to walk towards the future you. Slowly walk towards the you that you envision a year from now, your future you. And eventually the two of you will merge in this practice. So as you come together and merge as one, you are implementing this energy and this power to who you are becoming. You can use this practice daily, or you can simply do it today and not do it again. And because you've already imagined future you, you're claiming it in your mind's eye, and you're claiming it with the power. And over the next year, you can watch yourself becoming this future you, and perhaps expanding this person you are today and this future you established today into who you want to and are becoming. That concludes our practice for today, and I thank you for your presence and your energy.
Thank you. So that was our self-care exercise with Dr. Green to close this out. And I hope that you're able to use that, right? Many times we feel fixated in place, and that this gives you not only the internal reason to do brave, but external reasons to do brave as well. And we'd love to hear from you in the post-mood survey. So if you can click on that in the chat, we'd love to hear of what impact this workshop has had on your mental wellness and well-being. And also as well, before we close out, tomorrow you will be receiving from the NGLCC a post-workshop email, and you'll receive our free empowerment guide, which really crystallizes the ideas, insights, and inspirations from our shared today from our experts into a one-page guide for you. And then as well as part of that post-workshop email, you have the opportunity to sign up for a free 15-minute mental wellness consultation with Dr. Green and myself. And for that, with Dr. Green and myself, we'll discuss your needs, answer your questions, and suggest the best topics and tools for organization. And we only are allowed we have 15 minutes, but of course, if we go over for that time to talk to your needs, there'll be no problem on our end. But there's the post-mood survey to take. And then with that, what I'd love to say is, I'd love to say thank you to all of our participants, experts, partners, and especially to the NGLCC for making this workshop happen. Without you, it could not have happened. And thank you for allowing us to share from Safe to Brave, It's a Vibe. And with that, I conclude. I can hand it over. I think, should I hand it over to you, Lauren?
Thank you so much. And thank you to MH3, thank you to CVS Health, and thank you to all of you for joining us for today's webinar. The recording of today's webinar will be available on the NGLCC YouTube if you'd like to share it with your friends, or if you'd just like to review it yourself. So that concludes today. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your week, and we will see you on the next NGLCC Webinar Wednesday.